the Lord.
What do you think the meaning of the prayers?
No, I think while prayers are good, because any great nation is founded on the principles of strong religious inclination, but I think we must bring ourselves to a point where we do not take prayers superficially and, color them, with political, sentiments, etc. Because true prayers must be driven by the clergy, not called for and driven necessarily by politicians. And of course, we know as a nation we've always been having the prayer breakfast. This is the time of President Kibaki, and that's always been good. They've been held at hotels. Now we're seeing that occasionally there are prayer sessions that are held in political grounds, and in the end they don't end up being too prayerful. They end up being too political. And of course that takes us back to the principles of separation of state and religion and how that plays a role in the growth of democracy.
There are some people who feel that those prayers, like you're feeling, they are not sincere, that it's politics, that it's an insult to the victims.
I think yes, they are partly right, Mutegi. And because ask yourself, I think for me one of the messages that comes clearly is that the institution of the church, that is the people who are meant to lead in that frontier, there are issues around the church, and that's why, for example, politicians have taken over their space, because as Bigambo says, it should have been led by churches, but how comes they're being led by politicians? So it's actually a message to the church, and why haven't you arisen and taken your place? Because if you look at the way the Jubilee administration came to power, one is that they mobilized around the ICC. They had prayer rallies, and actually if you could look at the amount, and you guys are in the media, if you look at the amount of time that was dedicated to prayer, and that the amount of time that was dedicated to actually politics, they actually used those to mobilize their numbers to register as voters. And as a result, and that's why when the whole theory of tyranny of number came in, the mobilization was prayer rallies, which actually, genuinely, I don't see if there were genuine prayer rallies. But it's what Mutegi. And if a smart politician, if they seized an opportunity, in fact, the question actually now should be, ICC brought them together, they got to power. Now that ICC is no longer an issue, what will keep Jubilee together? That is one of the major questions that, if it's not well answered, then perhaps we could be seeing the last days of Jubilee.
Is that so? Because even those people who are in the Rift Valley were making noise.
Yes. When
Ruto was facing those charges, people like Isaac Ruto and those people in Kano, it looks like now they are not, although they are making little noise, they look like they have been brought in.
I come from the Rift, so at least I more or less understand their language. You see, one of the things that happens, the socialization in the Rift, if somebody is in a problem, you do not celebrate your brother who is in a problem. You may not agree politically or even ideologically, but if you have a brother who is down with the crisis, culturally you should not celebrate such. And that's why William Ruto politically was seen to be bearing the burden or the collective problem of the people of the Rift. And therefore, if you touched him, you were seen to be celebrating a friend or a brother who is in a problem. And then what ICC has done is actually it has consolidated the entire Rift behind William Ruto. In fact, currently, if you look at it, the person between the president and the deputy who has more work is actually William Ruto to finally consolidate his hold and prepare himself for higher responsibility. So that's actually the message on the ground. And everybody now, therefore, has to go behind that. And that's why you see what Isaac Ruto has done, and even the people in Kano. They are consolidating themselves because the wind is very clear. Where the direction is going, if you're not behind Ruto, then your days are numbered.
I don't know, because Kano said they're going to field a candidate, a presidential candidate.
Really?
And that's what they have said. The fight between Gideon Moi and Ruto is not over.
Well, Kano fielding a presidential candidate is not wrong it could be possibly part of a longer-term strategy, if needs be within the Jubilee coalition, if at all KANU is affiliated to Jubilee, so that maybe with the possibility of a runoff, then they see how to consolidate now all that together. But remember too, driven by ambition, Gideon Moyo also possibly does not want to remain the Senate level. He could be entertaining a bigger vision and aspiration, possibly to contest the presidency at a future date. And he may want to test the waters, not with both feet by perhaps a single foot. And that could inform the necessity of running maybe in 2017, if at all he does. But in the end, the chances are unimpressively slim for KANU, if at all they want to field their own presidential candidate. Because looking at the political field and the market as it is, the odds are so much against them. If at all such odds facing the present opposition are huge, then what about a small party like KANU?
Where do you place those rebels, in your opinion, who went to campaign for KANU in Kericho?
You see, in the end, it is known that in politics there is no permanent enmity. And you never can tell, because in pursuit of political survival, and in the end also in pursuit of the consolidation of the entire rich block of the Rift Valley, it may be necessary, one, for those who are the rebels to find themselves aligning with the Jubilee, if at all they want to secure their seats or be re-elected. Because the superiority, the political superiority of William Ruto in the Rift Valley is undisputed. And remember that the hero that he has been seen and a political martyr having suffered for the others because of the ICC issue is something else that is contributing so much to Ruto's political influence. That influence with the absence of ICC is not going to go away. In fact, it's going to be sustained.
Actually, if you look at it, Mutegi, in the Rift, because William Ruto has declared that he has presidential ambitions. He's actually come out clearly that is going to run after the Uhuru's time is over. Now, what I see happening in the Rift Valley is that actually if Ruto wants to strengthen his hold, is actually for him to reach out. If you remember, if you look at, and I think he was rightly advised, if you saw the way he responded to the ICC, compare him with Sang, you could see Sang started from day one. He was very happy. Even on the second day, he announced that he has political ambitions. But William Ruto's, he was away for 3 days, and you can see he's supplicant. So what leadership requires is magnanimity. Actually, William Ruto will be in a better place if he reaches out to the so-called rebels, because already they have constituencies. For example, somebody like Isaac Ruto, and tells Isaac Ruto, let us work together, because he should mobilize and work towards presenting himself as a higher working at a higher level, unlike going to compete with William Ruto and even Gideon Moyo. Because and when I look at if I was advising William Ruto, I would tell him at this point put together a strong team that will invest in preparing him for a greater responsibility. Like when Obama wanted to run for presidency, he had David Axelrod, David Plouffe. They prepared the road for him. And then do not participate in the competition at the lower level. Let these people be ready to consolidate behind you. Then number three, you should invest strongly in an image of a strong praise. And I can compare that with what Raila. If you remember a few years, Mutegi has been in the media, there was a time, for example, Raila was not seen that he can become president. Everybody was seeing him. The only match he can go is become a kingmaker. So William Ruto, if he wants to become the person or the president he wants, if he consolidates his whole, moves away from lower level competition, Gideon Moyo, Isaac Ruto, and even the Sudi, all that, tell them, I am your older brother, and we have a bigger agenda. If we put a lot of our energies here, what is going to happen? The nation will not respect us. Look at the nominations of ODM in 2013. Actually, it is seen that when Raila went to bring calm in the nomination, it took a lot of time from the national stage and went so I think William Ruto is better placed if he moves to the next level and actually does not compete a lot with the so-called rebels, and actually tells them there is a space for everybody in this house that we are creating.
There is a move, or there was a move, there still is, I don't know, to disband those other political parties and form one solid Jubilee
party. Yeah.
And it looks like it's foundering. It's being sung by the two of them, the president and but the people who are assigned to the job, it seems like the party was supposed to be launched in March. It looks like there is some law they are waiting for passing in the parliament.
It's a political parties amendment bill?
Yes.
Yes.
But it looks to me as if there is fear.
The main challenge is, you know, politicians are it's one of the most sharp people that we have. At times people undermine politicians, but I tell you they are able to read the mood. So the problem with Tegi is the whole issue about nomination. If we all go to Jubilee, you are not assured of if you are going to get the nomination. And you know, mathematically, when you go for an election, political party brings on board 40% of the vote. Then you work on 40%, that is 80, and then you see how to divide the 20, and you're in the office. So everybody says, since we have one presidential candidate, that is the Uhuru Kenyatta, together with William Ruto as is running it at the moment, why are we risking in going into a house that we do not know the entrance, the windows, or exit strategies? So why don't we keep? So that's the major opposition is coming from the political class, and it's because of nominations come 2017.
Yeah. And also battered by the winds of resistance, it may be unwise for there to be an insistence that they form only one single party going into the re-election effort of 2017. In fact, it would be better if they remain as a coalition. There will be much danger because, of course, there are those who want to contest various seats that are being held by various incumbents. And knowing very well that the closeness and affiliation of some those who are office holders with the powers that be at the top, they fear that if we have or they get to have only one party for which is used as a vehicle, in the election, then many may stand to be disadvantaged. And remember too that most of these leaders don't want in the end to have a fallout. And you know, when people fall out and you've got only one party, they may not go to any other except maybe the opposition. Now remember that in the run-up to the 2013 elections, because of the coalitions that were formed, those who were not in the mainstream party or parties of the coalition went into the affiliate parties and even won seats, but they're still part of the greater coalition. So to entertain wisdom, it may be proper politically that they don't push, the TNA especially and URP push for a merger to have to have only one political party.
But why is it they're insisting on having it? To me it looks like it's kind of return to dictatorship.
I think for the person who is, if you notice, the person who is actually pushing for the consolidation is actually William Ruto.
Yes.
It's not the president.
Not the president.
And the reason for that is, you can understand, William Ruto is focused on 2017. So there are concerns on the ground about if, for example, all communities in Kenya are voted for each other. The communities from the mountain region have not voted for any other person. So it's actually a political strategy, you can see, from William Ruto to ensure that everybody is into the same one house, so that come 2017 we should actually remain in the same, or anyone who is seen to be moving. So you can see it is strategy 2022. The person who is driving it is not, because Uhuru is assured of his he is going to run for president. And then the other thing that I think actually, that this is just a theory, I'm just speaking from where you're coming from, and the political scientists can confirm here. If you were William Ruto, the most strategic thing to do today you can see the constitution says that governors are going to run for 2 terms.
2 terms, yes.
Come 2022, you will have actually a lot of governors who will have ran for 2 terms, and they are saying, no, we are ready for national responsibility and we have something to show. If I was able to do a lot of work at the county level, like, I can be trusted for national responsibility.
Level, yes.
So you can actually see that it is a strategy 2022 by the William Ruto's team, so that come 2022, he is at the political level, he is able to manage competition. And that's my theory, that's how I see it. Actually, it's more strategic for the deputy president to support other governors, not the ones who are running currently, because in 2022 the same people will be campaigning for a 2nd term. So they have the momentum of wanting to become governors, and they would want also to be on the winning side. If he supports current sitting governors, their term will be over by 2022, and they will not be interested much. In running for office. Their momentum will have gone down. Yet that's when the time William Ruto wants what to become a president. So Mutegi, that's how I can relate why the push for the disbanding of parties, and actually why it is being pushed by the deputy president.
When they were campaigning, as you said earlier when we started, they started by being victims of ICC.
Yes.
Now the ICC is gone.
Yeah.
The Kikuyus, in fact, initially when Uhuru came here for an interview, not Uhuru, Ruto, I used to tell him that I think, as far as unity is concerned, it's between you two, you and the president. The Kikuyus and the Kalenjins are not united. I was proved wrong, because now they're united. They fought, then they have united now to make a big party called Jubilee.
Yeah.
That was because of ICC.
ICC, yes.
What unites them now?
Well, the frenetic insistence, especially by the coalition partners here, the president and the deputy, that their coalition partners are seamlessly united is a false premise, because too many things remain unresolved thanks to the post-election violence. There are those who are victims of the 2007-2008 PEV menace, and they still remain, in the womb of that anguish, anger, lost property, etc. And that's why, in an effort possibly to see how to create that seamlessness, it may be proper for mechanisms of restitution to be put in place, those who took property belonging to others, etc. and whatnot. But because of the bigger political agenda and the unity that must be forged, that is why it is necessary for there to be concerted efforts for true national cohesion and reconciliation, because that has not fully happened. Remember, for example, due to or informed by the NARA, the National Accord Reconciliation Act of 2008, there were the Agenda 4 items. All those Agenda 4 issues have not been achieved to date. And you remember that some of those things and the anomalies is what led to the post-election violence. For us as a nation, inspired by the values espoused in Article 10 of the Constitution, and even greatly to Article 232 of the Constitution, it is necessary for now the two leaders, President Kenyatta and Deputy President Ruto, to find how they bring the nation together. They must depart necessarily from the brand of politics that has been there for a while now, where some have been chiding at others, especially the opposition and whatnot, or using analogies that necessarily are aimed at maybe certain communities or certain individuals from certain quarters. They must now speak to what has been captured as, for example, in the Constitution, the functions of the president, as a symbol and the role, as a symbol of national unity. The deputy president and the president need now to rise to that greater symbol.
That is what needs to be done. Yes. But are they doing it?
Yeah.
If you look at what they're doing.
If you look at the state of the nation address, Mutegi, if you look at Article 132, that speech by the president, it is actually a speech to the nation as a head of state. But when I have read through it and I have looked at it, you can actually see more it was a Jubilee scorecard rather than a state of the nation address.
Yeah, sure.
So for me, if I was advising the president, the first thing the president needs to do is actually, under the presidency, establish a ministry of reconciliation and national cohesion. I know somebody might ask, we already have a commission doing that, but that will lift the issue and give it the political impetus and give it the resources that is required. When you have the former Speaker Marenda moving down as a commissioner, there is a limitation to which commissioners can do. Now that requires impetus from the political push coming from the president. He's the chairman of the National Commission.
Ole Kaparo.
Ole Kaparo.
Yes.
Then number two is that what you actually need is that when you look at the current situation, the country still seems to be divided, and you can see the Catholic Church has spoken about it, and even when you cannot move into an election year when you are divided as a nation. So I think the president can call a national conference on so that we can address these issues, and he leads as the head of state. But you also pointed out something, Mutegi, about ICC. Now that ICC is no longer here, what is going to keep the two communities together? Now, there is something, Javas, I think I would want to point is that, remember, the people from the mountain and the people from the valley have tasted power. People who have tasted power, when you tell them that it is going to go, they can actually abandon their interest for the sake of, they know what it means to be in power. So one of the things that is likely to keep the two communities together is that they know what it means to be in power, and they can bury their differences irrespective whether they have been resolved or not. So that's one of the major issues. Then number two, William Ruto is now the deputy president. For you to run against an incumbent, you all know the African experience that incumbents have high chances of running. And there is no any other place, if William Ruto moves out of the coalition with Uhuru Kenyatta, that he is assured that he can get a higher position. So the odds are against him, and there is high likelihood that they will stick together. Now the major question therefore will be, William Ruto, you're sticking with Uhuru Kenyatta. How sure are you come 2017 that in Kiswahili hii mkono itarudishwa? But that's another debate for another day, but those are concerns that are on the ground. But from all indications, if they stick together, then they have a higher chances of retaining their hold on power for a long period of time.
There are complaints that the president, when he spoke the second State of the Nation, he promised some reparation money.
Yeah.
He also promised something to do with the justice and the reconciliation report. Yeah. None of the money is there. 10 billion. The reconciliation report is there. It's being implemented, maybe piecemeal, and those complaints are there. Like you said, there are some people who left the Rift Valley, some Kikuyu left the Rift Valley. Yeah. They know who is living in the house. Yes. They know who's slaughtering their cows. And who is milking the one that's living. Yes. and those matters, as he says, are not resolved. How do we know? Of course, Ruto and I've had Ruto and Murkomen saying, not again, we'll do everything possible to make sure that nobody dies because of politics. Well, are you sure about that?
You see, yes. First, we need not have such declarations that are merely mouth deep. We need a demonstration of the faith of the leaders that indeed they are keen on the implementation. If it's the question of the TGRC's report, there is overwhelming evidence that the government is not keen on the implementation. How come that there is only a sweeping statement about the interest to implement it, and various critical aspects of it remain unspoken to? But far much more than that, the understanding that the report itself was doctored to suit political interests, may inform the necessity that possibly we need a more sincere truth, justice and reconciliation effort, as even my brother Kimosop has indicated, as opposed to the cosmetic one that we have had. And then the reduction of the State of the Nation address into an arena where promises are made and scorecards that are only speaking to the manifesto of Jubilee itself reduced also that the place of the head of state to speak to the entire minds and hearts of the nation. You see, during the State of the Nation address, you don't need to start making promises. It's not a political platform. It is a policy platform where you speak to certain fundamental issues that are to do with the unity of the nation, the progress and the growth of the nation, and response to international obligations, that's where you leave it, not making promises again. And that is why some advisors of the president get it wrong.
They actually, the president actually needs to revamp his advisory. If you look at some of the mistakes that have been done in the past, that you can see very clearly, the audit trail leads to some of his advice. He needs to revamp his, and because when you have a state, it is a state of the nation address. For example, Mutegi, the most engaged presidents we've ever had in the history, Kenya vis-a-vis the world, is Uhuru Kenyatta. We need to know how are those engagements impacting on, how are we doing Kenya vis-a-vis the East Africa, Kenya vis-a-vis the African continent, Kenya vis-a-vis the global community. We needed to know what are the dangers to the existence of the nation state. For example, we've had elections. After every elections, people, Kenyans fear to go to an election. We should not be fearing to go for an election. It's an audit opportunity. What are the issues that, before we move to the nations, that we need to address? For example, there are confidence issues around the IEBC. Now, being the CEO of the country, he needs to come out clearly that, yes, we will follow the constitution, but we also have a responsibility to challenge and hold people into account and follow the constitution. Other issues that we actually have come up, what are we doing to enhance national cohesion? For example, the TJRC report, one of the failures we've had is that Parliament, for example, the National Assembly, to be specific, has not adopted the report. They amended the law and they say Parliament may consider. If they amend that report, Javas, will it still remain to be a TJRC report, or will it now be a parliamentary report? For me, the TJRC report is a report that actually speaks to all agencies. So the DPP needs not to wait for National Assembly for him to commence some certain investigations. The President already has issued an apology, which was part of the recommendations of the TJRC, saying on behalf of his government and past government. So we should be seeing other organs actually moving, not waiting for the National Assembly. And then the 10 billion has to be approved by Parliament, and National Assembly is waiting for them to consider the report. So I think when I point out that the need for a ministry under the presidency to actually oversee all that implementation, it's critical. In fact, Mutegi, if the president addresses national cohesion and supports devolution for the next 2 years, I can assure you his second term will be guaranteed. National cohesion and devolution, those two things, then it will be very easy moving towards the 2017.
You think it might lose?
I don't know where
while the onus is not on us to make a declaratory statement as to whether he will outrightly be re-elected or not, the thing is this: such re-election must be pegged on performance. And that is why it was in bad taste a declaration or a statement that was made somewhere in Baringo that those who want to take up office should only hope so after 2032. Because, you see, you do not take the place of the heavenly dwellers or the Almighty to declare that it is done and cast in stone that it is only these two who must serve first. Because, in the end, if it's a question of the will of the people, and what Hans Kelsen speaks to as the ground norm, the basic norms of leadership and governance based on constitutionality, then the rule of law must apply. And if the rule of law must apply, then we must also respect the electoral laws that we have. But in the end, look at the challenge that the Jubilee administration continues to face to date. The issue, for example, of corruption. Now, you want to appreciate that with the scale of corruption in the country, the Youth Fund, for instance, where a director who has admitted mea culpa that he made errors while in office as the chair, is out of the country, yes, he still remains in office, and no prosecution, or no charges have been pressed against him. Look at the issue, for example, of the NYS, where, and let's face it, that the president has been shy to castigate outrightly, for example, the issues of the former CS Anwar Guru and the like. These things send some kind of silent message that there is no outright devotion on the part of the holders of power today to fight the menace of corruption. The other thing is this: appreciating the place of devolution in Kenya today and the constitutional law on devolution, it is necessary now that the president, as the chair of the summit, working jointly with the governors, thanks to intergovernmental relations, and the objects of devolution, to see how the aspect of cohesion that Mr. Kimosop has spoken to can be achieved, because without appreciating devolution, such cannot be achieved.
Javas, allow me to say this. The third thing, Mutegi, that let me give a background to it. When Kibaki was in power, we used to have something, and I sat in some of the technical team. It's called the Governance, Justice, Law and Order Sector Reform. Yes, yeah. It was supported by the government, GOK, independent donors and pool donors.
When Madaka was the minister.
Actually started with Kiraitu, Martha, and then the challenge that why Javas we are seeing those issues of NYS, we are seeing all those issues, is because one thing that Jubilee administration has been saying is that they did not have a strong governance agenda. So the president, in my view, is actually, the issues he's talking about corruption, it will be painful. If he institutionalizes that by actually, you don't need to, GJ laws was working. We only had a problem with GJ laws because of two things, ownership and procurement. Some government departments felt it's donor driven. So if we can reinvent and actually have a governance agenda as an administration, because they have been very thin on issues governance. And the rule of law. Because when you have a rule of law in a country, it brings in certainty. Because I know, Javas, if I put my money in Bank Y, the rules are very clear. Everybody plays by the rules. So one other pillar that the president needs to strengthen is the rule of law in his administration. And the rule of law, for example, when we look at NYS, look at all the issues that we have reported on, when we strengthen governance as a country, the dividends are very clear. When we put in the Center for Financial Reporting, actually the IMF's money, they were very clear. For you to move ahead, we need a Center for Finance. That's why today, if you want to deposit 1 million, you have to declare what it's coming, and you cannot do it by cash. You have to do it through RTH. You strengthen the systems of the country. And for me, if the president comes out strongly on the rule of law and people being held into account, this country will move ahead. Remember, we have moved now. We are Kenyans are questioning this about Kenya is now a middle-income country. When you're moving towards certain stages, Mutegi, but Kenya is a middle-income country. There are tenets and issues that must be done by a middle-income country. Just like the way we talk about when you mature, you are initiated, you have to marry, go into your own house. There are things that this country, and we are very thin on the rule of law. And look at even the police reforms. Look at so they say when we all of them should move together, so that if I'm bringing my money into the country, I know where it is going, whom I'll be accountable. It is not about people, it is about systems. And even Obama said that Africa does not need strong people. Africa needs strong institutions. I am very concerned, Mutegi, about this issue about, we need to go back to an IPPG. The constitution is very clear. If you have an issue with the commission in any commission, you institute a tribunal. I do not know why we are not ready to move from people to institutions. Because when you move to institutions, certainty becomes higher, and even the country is held in high regard. Today, if you look at the West, when Jubilee administration came into power, the West were hedgy. You could see they were far off. But today, they has been embraced. So I think we need the rule of law, devolution, national cohesion, and let me tell you, you can check this to the bank. He will win the elections by 12 noon come 2017. That's not prophetic, but that is analytical.
The president has, even if they came as young people with digital types, they employed young people. You know, Iguru staff. We have the Attorney General. We have the our whole Professor of Law. We have those people who advise them in the State House. Lawyers also. We have Jay Muturi, See, all these people are not foolish. Why don't we? Why are you saying that? Why is there vacuum? Why is there? Why is no governance institution? Why is that? The question is, why does the president get advised? Why does he has apologized? Maybe at times.
Now you see, and that's why we've spoken to the issue of the president's advisors. Remember when the tribunal issue for Justice Tunoi came up, there was a letter from the presidency that was negating the formation of a tribunal. And then, less than 24 hours later, the president went against his own initial pronunciation that now he formulated a tribunal. That speaks to the kind of people that advise him. Now look,
why doesn't he fire them?
The thing is this, while these people are well educated, but there are certain political interests and gatekeepers who are there. And you see, the president is in charge of the diary of the nation and the affairs of the nation. And that's why he depends on his advisors as pillars. But when those advisors have got some various interests, then they put those interests first, the nation suffers. Look at it this way, while we are at the risk of comparing ourselves so much to the US, one of the administrations in the US that is going down without a major scandal is the Obama administration. He depends so much on very critical, fair-minded, clear-minded advisors. President Kenyatta does not need to be held captive by advisors who have got other interests. And that is why, if he were to be advised properly, thoroughly, then and unequivocally, then we would have the nation moving forward with clarity of thought from the presidency. Look, for example, at the issue of the debt ceiling of the nation, the debts of the nation. Why can't we, for example, cap it? Why should we, after the issue and the scandals of the Eurobond, want to go into another Eurobond again? Why are we so much inclined to the borrowing? And you see, even if you're to use an individual analogy, any person who borrows too much ends up being, strangled by the, ropes of such debt and will never progress. You are held, actually you are enslaved. Why is it that we want to deliver the future generations of this country into slavery due to the debt that we're getting? And I know that during the Moi era, you recall, when we were shunned by the West, for a very impressive period, we survived without any grants or, taking any debt. During the Kibaki time. It is possible. And with self-sufficiency and seeing how we build stronger, effective institutions, then we can go forward and demonstrate how an independent nation we are. But when we have institutions, for example, look at some of the constitutional commissions we have. My brother Kimosuf has spoken to some of the challenges that IBC is facing. If we have to move to the next election, knowing that, yes, we are safe and can trust our institutions, then without these other persuasions that are there, let us see how we can strengthen and possibly reform even the IEBC. Because we don't want a possibility where there is, because of the lack of trust in the IEBC and the judiciary, because of the corruption that is there, people don't trust the credibility of these institutions. Remember too, thanks to our history, that nearly every election where we have had an incumbent in office, we have had violence during such elections. And we are going into the 2017 elections with an incumbent, that's President Kenyatta. We want to avoid the challenges that have bedeviled this country for so long a time. And some of these challenges date back to the hiccups that we are facing of the Lancaster conference, and the Lancaster conference that led to the independence constitution that was variously mutilated to form the 1969 constitution. And when you look at the constitution of Kenya 2010, it is informed by the patches of the 1969 constitution. It is these patches that continue to haunt us. And even though we have a new supreme law in place, we are still held captive by our past provocative and cleared history. And that is why right now, more than ever before, we need first of all to start truthfully, sincerely renegotiating our past, renegotiating our history, so that we can negotiate for our future. We are standing at that divide right now.
Are you talking like Dave?
No. I think
we are running out of time. Maybe final comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I did not even know how time has gone. I think, Mutegi, there is something that is said that what we need for us to move ahead, the challenge to the leadership, and leadership that is transcendent, that moves beyond the differences that we have in the country, is that we need to transform this economy and ensure that we create opportunities so that we can have an inclusive community. The element of exclusive, one of the reasons why we have violence, Bigambo, is that when people feel that we are excluded, then that's why they rise up in arms. So inclusivity, community, opportunity, then together we are better as a country. Thanks, Mutegi.
Well, there is no better time, and the honors now rest on the shoulders of the President and the Deputy President. I understand and I hear that there is a prayer engagement somewhere in Afraha in Nakuru.
Yeah.
While the opposition may shy away from going to that meeting for various reasons, because Nakuru holds a special place in the hearts of the Jubilee guys, because that's where the journey started. Yeah. And it's possible that they are going to restart the journey of re-election.
That's what is big.
Yes, but I think that will be making a mockery also of the essence of prayer itself. But ultimately, I think that platform can be used to bring a nation.
They have invited the opposition.
Well, but
why Nakuru?
Yes. Why Nakuru? Why not Nairobi? Why not where it happened? For example, and I've given this example variously, that after the civil war in the U.S., Abraham Lincoln, with his famed Gettysburg Address, made such proclamation at the Gettysburg grounds itself. We know where the battlefield was in the PEV. Why can such prayers be held there?
And be inclusive, have everybody across the board, and then let's say this thing has held us together for the last 6 years. It's time to put this to a conclusive end. As the head of state, I'm leading this process. I want everybody on board. We might have an election that's coming. We don't want people to be afraid. We will go into the 2017 elections, come out together, united and stronger to build a better country.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I hope the President and his advisors have heard you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.